Jim, we have a question this week for the late night drive-thru from Greg Manuel, or Manuel, but I think Manuel. And he says, hey, Jim, it was great seeing you at the buffet with Bolin.
He was at the Golden Corral extravaganza, my buffet with Bolin 2, The King Strikes Back.
Just wanted to know if you had any stories or memories of David Schultz. When I see him doing promos, I see some mannerisms that Steve Austin may have borrowed. Seeing him and Dennis Coralluzzo go off on Jim Wilson on the Morton Downey Jr. show was epic.
Oh, God. Well, Schultz started, he's from Jackson, Tennessee. He started here in Tennessee territory, and I actually have been watching him since, I think he probably trained with Herb Welch originally, being from West Tennessee. It sounds
that
probably
is right.
True.
Yeah.
But he started on TV in like 1975, real early, and was this tall, skinny kid. And, you know, they used him as a job guy for a little while, but they moved him up fairly quick. And by the next year, him and Dutch Mantell was a team for a little while here. He and Dennis Condrey were a team in here and in Knoxville, all in the first several years that he was in the business. And he, you know, he got bigger and filled out, but he was always a big fucker that didn't look like he wanted to fuck with. And I've said before, I'm not surprised that he slapped Stossel. I see where you're going with the mannerisms with Austin, but actually I think it just comes from the fact that they probably got some similarities in that they're just two big old fucking country boys and don't fuck around too much. But I think probably my favorite team that Schultz was in was with Dennis Condrey. They were just fucking fantastic.
And, you know, there is a little bit of footage of them around, and they were a really great team. And everyone talks about Hickerson and Condrey and then Midnight Express. It's like a forgotten team.
Well, Hickerson and Condrey, Phil Hickerson was probably a better, more polished worker at the time than David Schultz, because he started a little bit beforehand. And also just as far as a getting heel worker, Phil had that look and everything. And, you know, Schultz was still green, but his athletic work was probably much better. Schultz's, let's say that. And, you know, you could tell with that size, he was going to go someplace, and he did pretty quickly. But, it'd be interesting if he'd have stuck around the business. I'd like to have seen him in like WCW in the 90s, just slapping the bejesus out of some fucking pampered asswipe in the ring on Live Nitro or something.
Well, I always wondered why he didn't get more opportunities after everything that happened, because here is a guy who was a good star in the South, became a big star in Calgary, big star in the AWA, goes to the WWF and is instantly one of the top heels aligned with Piper and Orndorff. He has the incident where he slaps John Stossel. A lot of people think that's why he got fired. He actually got fired for going after Mr. T backstage at the Los Angeles Sports Arena.
Yeah, and Mr. T would not have fared well at all in that encounter.
No, apparently before it, he was just obsessed with the idea that he should be working with Mr. T, and he was just saying over and over again, D&T, D&T, and no one was listening, and then he went after T. But he gets fired, and he has this notoriety from the John Stossel thing, and that's it. I mean, he shows up in Memphis. There's a memorable, frightening promo where he's on TV. Lance Russell's interviewing him and Randy Savage, and Schultz is wearing a giant swastika, and he says Jerry Lawler has AIDS. And then nothing. He becomes a bounty hunter.
By the way, imagine when you're standing next to Randy Savage doing a promo, and you're the more intense and psychologically unbalanced motherfucker. And John Cosper actually is working on a book on this very subject, Dr. D. David Schultz. Watch this space for further information as it becomes available. But I think it may have been voluntary on his part. I don't know, but he went into the bounty hunting business, which actually suits David very well. Yeah, I don't know if he was interested in wrestling that much, because he never came back and did anything. He wasn't at a lot of fan fest for ages and still hasn't been but just a handful.
Do you think, for instance, he would have fit into Crockett Promotions in '86?
I'm not saying he would have fit in anywhere, but there was a lot of, let's put it this way, before TBS got involved and before Vince became publicly traded, if you could work like Schultz and draw money like Schultz at that point, there's places that would have been glad to have him around if he wanted to be. I don't know if it would have done anybody any good if he didn't want to be there. If they just brought him in for, let's see, and he didn't want to be there, it might not have ended well either.